uh, my Battlefield 1 classes, and after about roughly 1.5 years, sounds right, 1.5 years of Battlefield 1, I have done every DLC, unlocked every weapon, including the Burton LMR from the recent June patch. Um, I have determined some of my favorite classes for each loadout. Each Some of my favorite loadouts for each classes. I'm sorry about that. That's what I mean. And yes, I wanted to share them with you today. So here it is for Assault. So Assault, obviously specializing in SMG shotguns and explosives. So for my close range weapon, I went with the Annihilator. I really like the Annihilator. The Annihilator has a strong fire rate of 830 rounds per minute. Decent ammo size, slightly low for me, but decent. 20 rounds, not bad. I would like a little more control, but if I wanted to have that, I probably could use the um, M1919 SMG, which is basically uh, um, an easier weapon to aim down sights with. It's basically the same thing though. This has fantastic hip fire, decent accuracy, and a strong damage output. It drops damage fairly quickly, but this is a weapon that you're going to be using fairly close. Along with that, I have the M1911 silenced, the AT rocket gun, the anti-tank grenade, and the frag grenade. And for each class, I like to switch up for each loadout, I like to switch out which melee weapon I use. So for this class, I think the Annihilator Trench is solid. I think it's a good all-around weapon. And yeah, I think substitutes could be the Automato Trench. I think that could be good substitute. Slightly better accuracy, same amount of hip fire, slightly better control, but a little less damage, but high rate of fire, high magazine size, so it's a good alternative. But I do love the aesthetics of the Annihilator. I think the MP18 Trench could be good. Only problem with it I have is it has slightly slow rate of fire, but the damage output is alright. The control is great, the accuracy is great, the hip fire is great. And also the damage at range is pretty good. And I love the magazine size. I just wish it had a slightly higher rate of fire. If it had 700 rounds per minute, I'd be probably using this gun every time. The only reason I don't have a shotgun in close range is that it's just I don't like shotguns that much for some reason. I don't know why. I feel like the Hell Reload's dropped off and the hip fire isn't good, so that's the reason why I wouldn't recommend it for close range. I might recommend it for our net slot. I think the Ribby Rolls is okay at close range, but I think it goes better in another spot. The SMG 08 Factory, I believe, could be very good at close range. It just doesn't have great hip fire, but it has large magazine size, decent damage output. It's hard to control, but it's very accurate if you can control it. 770 rounds per minute, so not too much slower than the Annihilator or the Automatico. And but it's slightly hard to control. And the Machine Pistole, M1912 or the P16 Storm, I like to use it sometimes because I think the aesthetics are really cool. It's a good looking gun. I have an awesome skin for it. It's not on right now. Here it is though. My only real problem with it is that the magazine size is just so small, and it just makes it tough to work with. For the M1917 Trench Carbine, I think this to be good in this area, but I do believe it to be better in other areas. Farmer Stop Auto, I also believe it's a very good choice in this area. 900 rounds per minute, very good, very solid. Selective fire, that's nice. Slightly low damage, OT accuracy, OT control, slightly low hip fire, but not too low. And it may have 16 rounds in the magazine, but the reload is insanely quick. So I might use the From or Stop Auto sometimes. And for sidearm, you could kind of use anything. I like to personally use any of the 1911s. You know, the silenced I think is personally the best since reduces muzzle flash. And also it's silenced, although obviously that doesn't really affect you too much, unlike Battlefield 4 or other games. But the 1911A1, the M1911 silenced, and the M1911, the original, I think are all solid firearms. For this class, I would like to have a decent rate of fire, but a hard-hitting weapon, so I would use the M1911 or really a kind of quick-firing pistol, such as the revolver Mark 6, the or the number 3 revolver, and I think the C93 could be good in this case as well. But yeah, and for all the assault classes, I use these two gadgets, the AT rocket gun and the anti-tank grenade standard. So here's mid-range. At mid-range, I like to use the M1917 carbine. I believe it's a very solid weapon. For mid-range, I think you probably could get away with a slug variant. I might switch to a slug variant every once in a while. I think the two best slug variants in the game are probably the Model 10A and the Model 1900 slugs. I think I believe that the Schrodin inertial slug could be good, but I feel like that it's slightly lower on damage than I would like for a slug variant. But for mid-range, I like the trench carbine. I believe the only other SMGs that really should contend with it are the maybe the MP18 optical. I do like the machine pistol M1912 P16 experimental. I believe that it's fairly good, you know, especially with the burst. I believe you get some good range. The patrol carbine, I like having the sight inside the assault class, but I believe that it doesn't work with this weapon because it doesn't put a lot of damage out. So that's the reason why I don't like it. I think the RC, either one, the SMG factory or the SMG optical, to be good, but overall it's just not a good weapon in my opinion. Good damage output, but slow rate of fire and very low magazine size. Only things this weapon has going for it is really it has a good damage drop off and it has high damage. You know, its accuracy is alright, but it's not great. And the M19 SMG I think could be a good one at mid-range, but still it's not great. I would prefer just using the Annihilator at close range and using this at mid-range. For secondary, I have the Obras. I think for this class, since you're going to have mostly SMGs, mostly low damage SMGs or slug variant, which might not be able to finish them totally, especially if you miss a shot. You need a high power weapon, especially with the SMGs because they fire fast. So I chose the Obrez, because with most weapons, if you get a couple hits on them, uh, Obrez to finish them in one shot, even though it has a slow rate of fire. Uh, but yeah, moving on to long range in the assault class. Oh, and also one more thing I want to talk about. I believe the Ruby Rolls factory to be really good in this as well. Um, just because it has a bipod, it really is accurate. And optical, I think, to be good as well. But here we are, long range. Personally, I like the Ruby Rolls optical for this at the long range. I just like it has a bipod, which makes it very accurate. You could also use the factory, which is good. Factory is slightly better hip fire, I find. But I think either one works just fine. You try using the machine and pistol experimental at slightly longer ranges, but it is a little difficult since the damage output's low. I think the only other contender other than the two Ruby Rolls might be the M1917 Patrol Carbine, but I find that the damage output to farther range is just too low for me. You know, it does roughly like 20 damage per shot, which means that you have to hit them 5 times at the longer ranges with using the M1917 carbine. So I like to stick with the Ruby Rolls solid damage and everything. And yeah, secondary I picked, I don't know why I did this, but I believe that I kinda just like using the 1903 hammerless with this class. I've tried out several sidearms in this class. And the 1903 hammerless I believe works well with the longer range weapons just because it's very accurate, and if you need to, you can spam fire if you have a good trigger finger. So yes, that's a soul class. So for the medic class, gonna be on the front lines. You wanna have a solid weapon to use. So I think this is kind of fairly obvious. I put the Fedorov Aftermath Trench. I think that's probably one of the best close range weapons in the entire game. Solid damage output, very good hip fire, and yeah, it doesn't have the most damage output in the class, but it's pretty good. It's pretty high up there. Solid rate of fire, one of the higher rate of fires in the class. Think alternatives to be the Che Verdati Trench. Has slightly higher damage, the same hip fire, same accuracy, same slightly better control, lower rate of fire, but you gotta make sure if you're using Che Verdati Trench, you probably want to put it on the full auto if you want to use it in close range. I also would recommend the M1907 SL Trench or Sweeper. Factory I don't like very much. The reason I would recommend the Trench or Sweeper is that the Trench, if you spam fire it, does decent damage output and it could do pretty well. You know, it's pretty accurate at farther ranges as well. The reason I would pick the Sweeper is that you won't have to spam fire. It has an automatic mode that you can switch to, which is decent rate of fire, 300 rounds per minute, at the same amount as the Che Verdati. Slower than the Fedorov Aftermath, but it's good. It's good. And I like it. You probably could recommend the auto-loading 8.25 extended as well. 360 rounds per minute, you know, but not nearly as good hit fire, so I don't know about that. But it's good. It's good. And yeah. I think I like having the revolver for this class. I think the auto revolver, the revolver Mark 6, or the Garand revolver really works well with this class. I like it. You know, I think that you should have a high power damage with this class, just in case if you don't hit all your shots. So, mid-range. Now, in the med class, there's a lot of mid-range weapons, so this is gonna take a little while. So, I believe at mid-range, my favorite weapon is the General Liu Factory, General Liu Rifle Factory. You could also use the Storm. I like using the Factory just because it has better control. But after the recent June update, I wouldn't have said the same thing. Frankly, I would call the General Liu Rifle Factory the worst weapon in the class. But now, it has an alternate fire mode, which makes it super good. The alternate fire mode basically is bolt action, which increases the damage from 5 to 70 at minimum. And if you get a headshot, rather than with the semi-automatic fire mode, a headshot would be probably about 50 damage. Mid to longer ranges rather than close to mid ranges. I like to, and the How Automatic Factory. I think they're both very good weapons. The How Automatic Factory, and then you have the Farquhar Hillstorm, and both of them are very similar. The How Automatic Factory has bipod, which makes it nice so to be a little more accurate, especially with those swanky sights. But the Farquhar Hillstorm, even though it doesn't have a bipod, it has better control, which helps it be a little more accurate. So yeah. I also would recommend the Fedorov Ditorev. Has bipod, decent rate of fire. You know, you knock people pretty quick. Not high damage, but works out well. It's pretty accurate when you're bipoded, so I like it. I would highly recommend the RSC 1917 Factory. Before the General Liu Factory, this was a weapon I would go to for this range. Solid damage. It could be one slow rate of fire, but if you control the recoil and play your cards well with the rate of fire, then you're gonna be fantastic, because this puts out a lot of damage. I think the Selbstlader, sorry, I definitely pronounced that wrong. 1906 Factory, Selbstlader, sorry, thank you, I got it now. I think that's very good at mid ranges. I think the sniper will probably be good at longer ranges. I do not have that unlocked. I do have this Selbstlader Factory unlocked though. I think any of the auto loadings to be good at mid ranges, although I don't like them that much. I only like the extended because it has the higher magazine capacity, and I like that for kind of closer ranges. But the marksman puts out too low damage for me at longer ranges, and the factory does not have a big enough ammo capacity for me at mid ranges. I think the Storm and the Optical are good for the Monjardon at mid ranges. Only problem is the Optical has a lot of kick on it. It's very hard to control. So I don't like it that as much at longer ranges. I think the Selbstlader M1916 Optical and Factory are both very good at mid ranges. I prefer the Factory a little more. I don't like the sights on the Optical variants that much, so that's why. And yeah, but overall I would recommend a lot of the weapons in the medic class for this place, but specifically I would recommend probably the General Liu Rifle Factory, the Howell Automatic Factory, and probably the RC M1917 Factory. So, and the Farquhar Hill Storm and Fedorov Drive are both very good as well, so I think you use them. The main reason I picked the C96 as my secondary is because I'm very nostalgic. I like the weapon a lot. I like that Han Solo's blaster. That Han Solo's blaster is based off the C96. So that's kind of the main reason why. I'm just very nostalgic. It's an okay weapon. I don't like the reload, but yeah, it's fairly accurate. But yeah. So for longer ranges, not that many choices in my opinion for longer ranges. The meta class, good thing because it took me a while to get through that mid-range. So for longer ranges, my favorite weapon is this Sub-Slider M1916 Marksman. It's a solid rate of fire, but you don't need that when you're hitting long shots. It has a sniper scope, so I think that's good. And yeah. I also do recommend the Mondragon Storm. It's very similar in many ways, has slightly better control, but not nearly as high as the magazine capacity, so I would rather have that higher magazine capacity. Also, the reason it has better controls has bipod, which is nice, so I think the Sub-Slider the Sub-Slider 1906 Sniper, I think that's a good weapon as well. I believe it has a bipod and a telescopic sight, like the Mondragon's Storm. I don't like the ammo capacity on this Sub-Slider 1906, but that's okay if you're going to be sniping. Unfortunately, I do not have that unlocked. And finally, I would recommend the Howell Automatic Sniper, solid rate of fire, decent ammo capacity, good control. It has a bipod, slightly low damage, but that's alright. I like it, it's accurate, and yeah. But overall, and unfortunately I don't have that unlocked. But overall, I will say that I like the Sub-Slider M1916 Marksman the best, but I would recommend any of those, especially the ones I do not have unlocked. I'm hoping I could get them unlocked. And yeah, for this I picked the Tachon Pistole, because I believe if you're hitting longer ranges, you need a nice weapon to quickly fire off and hit them. Usually, they'll be good. They'll be down because they'll already have taken a lot of damage, and yeah. And for this class, for medic class, I like to heal and revive people. Simple as that. I don't like the grenades that much because I believe it's selfish and you're taking up a spot where you could help your teammates. So, yep. Alright. So, next we have Sport class. Now, they recently added the Burton LMR trench into this class, and I will admit I like it a lot. It's the highest rate of fire weapon in the class with 830 rounds per minute. Low damage, you know, but that's alright when you tear people up with that 830 rounds per minute. Decent accuracy, the best hip fire in class. Good control, and I love the feature that you can switch, magazines. That you can switch magazines from regular to incendiary. I use incendiary rounds to actually take out Zeppelin, and I believe I have that on film, but I'm having trouble picking it back up. Hopefully I can find that and maybe get out to you guys. And yes, I just unlocked this weapon. I love it a lot. It's awesome. I really do like it. I recommend unlocking it. Highest rate of fire weapon in the class, and it's gonna be a monster at those close ranges. So, other weapons I would recommend, not too many really. I would recommend maybe the Madsen MG Trench. Slightly worse hip fire, not nearly as accurate, but a little more damage. Higher ammo capacity, has the ability to switch fire modes from automatic to semi-automatic. Better control, but it has a slower rate of fire for 540 rounds per minute. It's nowhere close to touching the Burton LMR Trench with its 830 rounds per minute. I also recommend the Bar M1918 Trench. Prior to the Burton coming in, it was one of the highest rated fire weapons in the class. It put out a very solid damage output. Good hip fire, slightly worse than the Burton's. Good damage output, slightly better control, but obviously very slower. Same ammo capacity, but probably slightly faster reload, and also has a better damage drop off, but I believe that the Burton still outputs this. But if I had to go for another weapon, other than the Burton, the Bar M1918 Trench probably would be it. I also recommend the Parabellum MG14 17/17 low weight. It has worse hit fire, but the rate of fire is very good, and the damage is very good. Control is good, accuracy is good, it has bipod, so if you want to bipod up, that's good. 700 rounds per minute and 100 rounds in the magazine. Fortunately, I do not have this unlocked. I haven't taken down 2 planes yet, but I do have the suppressive unlocked. 700 rounds per minute. It was the highest rate of fire weapon prior to the Burton in the class, I believe. Yes. And it's a good weapon. Just I don't like how the hip fire is so low, and also I only have a suppressive, so I can't really test that out either. And in the most recent DLC Apocalypse, they added the LMG 08 low weight, LMG 0818 low weight, and I think this is a good weapon. 600 rounds per minute, that's good. 100 rounds in the magazine. Bipod, so you can bipod up and be good. Solid damage, solid accuracy, but worse hip fire, which I do not like. Better control, good damage output, but damage output is about the same as the Burton. In fact, it's slightly worse than the Burton's, but overall, if I had to go for weapon for close range, the Burton would be it, like, not a question. I think the optical for the Burton could be good, but I don't know, I think if you're going to be using this weapon mostly at close range, you want to stick with the Trench, since it has such good hip fire. But if you want to try to shoot down a bunch of airplanes and stuff, go for it. Go for the optical. And I don't think any of the new weapons from the Tanker and Pilot class are really contenders for this. So, no. I put the M1911 silenced, obviously for the same reasons I picked it prior in the Assault class. I think it's a solid all-around weapon. I think the silenced is probably the best variant of it, considering the muzzle flash and the silenced part of it. And yes, I believe that it's good. I like to equip myself with ammo pouch, and sometimes I change this around, but most of the time I will have a limpet charge. I don't like the mortar that much, but I will sometimes put on the crossbow launcher, the frag variant, and yeah. So here we got ourselves the my medium range weapon for the support class. And my favorite weapon for this is the Huot automatic low weight. And I know what all you're gonna be saying. You're gonna be saying, bro, that's trash. And I know it may not look good, but I do think it's good. Well, actually, in fact, sorry about that. I actually would probably take the Perino. I think that the Perino is good. It has 120 rounds in the magazine. Fantastic accuracy. The accuracy's perfection. So good. But I really love it. Bipod makes it the most accurate weapon in the game. Good damage output. Not great hip fire, but that doesn't really matter. In this case, great control. 450 rounds per minute. That's good. Selective fire, which I always like. I think alternatives, you could use really any of the Tainter or Pilot weapons, but they're obviously not going to give you any advantage. I don't think that they would. The M1917 MG low weight is a good alternative. It's very similar to the Perino. Main differences are that it's not as accurate. It has less control, but slightly more damage. Same amount of hip fire, same fire rate. The main thing is it doesn't have selective fire mode, but it has good damage drop off and 250 rounds in the magazine, which is the highest count in any weapon in the game. I believe it's higher than even the Sentry, even the Sentry kit in game, which is just insane. So I think that's also a good alternative. But yes, I think you could use the Show Shot low weight. I don't like its slow rate of fire, but the damage is good, so I believe that's good. It has good control, good hip fire, not as much accuracy, which I don't like. You could use the Bar Storm, but the high rate of fire makes it slightly worse at control. It has better hip fire, but it has less accuracy and about the same amount of damage, slightly higher though. I would highly recommend though the low weight and the Storm variants for mid-range of the MG15. They're very good. They both have 100 rounds, which is solid. 500 rounds per minute, which is very good. And yeah, I think they're solid weapons. And then I would really recommend the 1909 B'nai Mercy Storm. I think it's good. I don't like the low magazine count, but that's alright. 450 rounds per minute, slightly better damage, but worse accuracy. I don't like that. And finally, I would recommend the Loadouts low weight and the Loadouts optical. I think they're both solid. I think they're both good. Slightly higher rate of fire, but I think the main contenders would be the M1917 low weight, the Perino model 1908 low weight, and probably the MG15 low weight. I think they would probably be the main contenders. So here we go. We get to long range. Oh wait, I forgot to explain my weapon choice. So same gadgets here. Weapon choice, I have the repeater pistola M1912. In real life it was called the Steyr Hahn M1912. Solid rate of fire, 312 rounds per minute, it's good. 8 rounds in the magazine. It has slow reload though, which I don't like very much. But it has very high accuracy, good damage. It's more accurate than the M1911, slightly less damage than the M1911, but still good. Has about the same amount of hip fire and a little bit better control, so that's why I like it. Only problem I have with it is that it has slow reload, but other than that, I really like it. I think it's a good weapon. I think they're both good combos since they're both accurate, and yeah. Alright, so for long range, I picked the M1917 MG telescopic, and I think a lot of people would agree with me that this is probably the best choice in the class for this. You could use any suppressive variants, but I don't believe they're that good, especially considering that their optics are not that long range. Excuse me. Sorry, it's late at night. But I believe that their optics are not very suited for the situation, for the situations that you'd be in at these longer ranges. So I like that you have the high ammo count, and that you basically just blast anyone. The optics are good, and yeah, I believe I also recommend the HUAT automatic optical, although I don't like that it has less range, but I don't have that unlocked, unfortunately. The reason I don't have it unlocked is because you have to get 300 kills with this damn thing. The HUAT automatic low weight, so that's not happening. I could recommend the Barham 1918 telescopic. I think the scope is good, the optics are good, but I don't like how accurate it is. It's not very accurate, unfortunately, so it only has 20 rounds as well, so it makes it tough. And it may have a bipod, but still I don't like it nearly as much. And you could go with the M1909 Bene Mercy telescopic, but the main problem I found with this is it's kinda tough to control. I found it very kitty. It would kick me around and mess me up, and kinda was a little difficult to control, and I didn't like that very much. So so I was using that for a while, but the damage is just a little too low for me. The ammo capacity is a little too low for me. And yeah, in fact, I would probably call it the worst weapon in class, even behind the HUAT automatic. So, but yeah, so and I picked the Bulldog revolver because it's high damage revolver to take anyone down in a matter of seconds. Decent rate of fire, and yeah, it's pretty good for a revolver. I think the fire rate's, excuse me, I believe the reload is slow, but other than that, I think it's nice. I think it's good. And obviously, limpet charge and ammo pouch once again, and yeah. Alright, finally, stout class. Excuse me for 1 second. But, yeah. So, here's the stout class. My favorite weapon for this, for close range is probably the Cartano M91 carbine. It's very good, high rate of fire, which you need, high rate of fire for stout class. 6 rounds, slightly low reload, but it's alright. Okay damage output. Hip fire's alright, control's alright, accuracy's on point. And yeah, very good damage damage output. And yeah, I also would recommend basically any straight pulls. I would recommend the Ross Mark III infantry, you know, fast rate of fire, even higher damage. I would recommend also the Gewehr infantry. Once again, very similar to the Ross. Slightly less damage, about the same as the Cartano, but both very accurate. Slightly worse hip fire, but same amount of control. But it's a straight pull, and it's good. I like it. I picked the Mars automatic just in case if you need a high damage weapon such as this. uh, to finish someone off, since these weapons might not always give you 100% of the damage. Um, and also I might recommend the Type 38 Arisato infantry, just because fast rate of fire and it's very accurate. It's very similar to Martini Henry, since you can since the sweet spot is very very close, and you get about 100 damage I think on the dot with it, with basically into the chest. So mid-range. For mid-range I would recommend basically any of the infantries and any of the carbines. I would recommend the Russian 1895 infantry. I think the trench is slightly better at closer ranges, so I would recommend it for close range, possibly. But the Gewehr 98 infantry I think is good. The SMLE carbine I think is good. The SMLE infantry I think is good. The carbine and infantry, the Gewehr M95 carbine and infantry I think are good. The Martini Henry infantry I think is very good. I think it's a very good choice. Lebel model 1886 infantry I think is a good choice. Mosin again. M91 infantry I think is a good choice. A lot of these I think are good choices. You could use the Mosin Nagant M38 carbine for close range. I don't see much of a difference though between it. Between it and the infantry, except yeah, not much of a difference. And I would recommend the M1917 Enfield infantry, as well as the Veterelli Vitali M1870-87 infantry. But obviously I just named a lot of weapons there. If I was to name the top 3, I would probably recommend the SMLE carbine, the Vredi Vitali M1870-87, because it has a high damage. I think it has 100 4 rounds, which is alright. Excuse me, I was about to yawn there. It has a good damage drop off. And I would also recommend the Martini Henry infantry. So those 3 I would definitely recommend. I think they're very good. Even the Martini Henry infantry has a slow rate of fire. It can destroy people very quickly. I picked the Farmer Stop because it's high rate of fire. I believe it can knock people very quickly if I hit them for a good shot, usually at least 70, you know. And for this, scout class, I picked the Trip Bomb He, which is the explosive variant, and the Flare Gun Spotting. So yes. Finally, I picked the for my long range, I picked the M1903 Sniper. I basically picked what I thought the best sniper in the class was. I think the Gewehr 98. Reason I think that the M1903 Sniper is the best weapon in the class is because it has good rate of fire, has perfect accuracy. I think it's controllable. I think it's controllable. It offers a bipod, which I like. I like bipod better than a palm rest. And yeah, but I think the Gewehr Sniper is a good one. The Gewehr 98 Marksman is a good one. I wouldn't recommend them though, at least Marksman variants, just because I don't like them very much. I think that's harder to control. I like the bipod But the thing about the Gewehr that makes it good is it's even more accurate than I think the 1903. It just has a slightly slower rate of fire, which I don't like. The SMLE Marksman, I think, is good all-around weapon. I think if you're a starter, it's a good weapon to pick. I think that's why they put it as a starter weapon. And yeah, it has good damage, has good accuracy, has hip fire, which you're never gonna need, has good control, decent rate of fire, and yeah, 10 rounds. I think that's good. The Gewehr 98 M95 Marksman, my mistake. I don't like it because number one, I don't like marksman variants. Number two, it's a straight pull, which means that usually it's gonna have less damage than the rest of the weapons, and it has a higher rate of fire, but that's not really important when you're using a longer range weapon. And I would say the same thing about the Ross Marksman. I don't like it that much. I believe that it kind of is a pain. Uh, Although I do like that you can stay scoped in, but I don't like it very much. Um, and I think the Lebel 98 1886 sniper I think is good. I just don't like that you have to how slow the reload is. Um, but I would say and the M1917 Enfield Silence I think is very good. But the three out of those that I would pick would probably be the SMLE Marksman, the M1903 Sniper, and the M1917 Enfield Silenced as my favorite long-range weapons. And I'm sure you'll notice that I never mentioned the M1903 Experimental once. Because it's a bad weapon. It's just a bad weapon. I don't know why anyone would use it. Only time I see people using it is if there's a challenge to do involving it, and I'm pretty sure there was a challenge when the either Russian or French DLCs came out, the They Shall Not Pass DLC and the um uh In the Name of the Tsar. Excuse me there, I stuttered for a second. But yeah, I just don't see too much purpose for it. If you want to use a quick firing weapon, then you're gonna go to the assault class most likely. You know, you can go to the medic or the support class, but I see no purpose of it being in the stout class. I would actually think that the M1903 Experimental would probably get more playtime if it was number one automatic, which I don't know if there was an automatic variant in real life. I'm sure they experimented with it, but DICE obviously has played around with a bunch of different stuff, and I don't think they'd have a problem with changing that. And also I think that it just probably would fit better in the assault class because number one, it's different. It's very different. It's not like it's not really SMG or rifle. It's kind of just one of those weird blends. But I think it would be an interesting option. It's odd in the stout class. That's all. Since everything is high damage and stuff, you know, everything in the all the SMGs in the assault class are fairly low damage and just fast fire rate, and you could, like, if you have a good trigger finger for the experimental, you can shoot it pretty damn quick. The experimental reminds me a lot of the M1917 trench carbine. I'll show you once I'm out of this. But it's it reminds me a lot of it. But first, let me explain why I like the Obrez pistol. I believe that if you it's somewhat accurate. I believe that if you hit someone, and they're not dead. It's just easy. You take it out, pound them, and also if you got someone close to you, this is the only pistol in the game that you could one-shot them at 100 health. Even though it has a slow rate of fire, I believe it's a good combo, and yeah. But back on the subject of um, of the M1903 experimental being in the uh, assault class rather than sniper, rather than scout. I don't even know if it did playtime in the assault class, but I think it's just an idea. So this baby has the M1903 experimental has 41 rounds, shoots semi-automatic, and it has 36 damage. Let's check out the trench carbine. So this is 27. So this has 41 rounds. It's semi-automatic. Has 27 damage. Let's take a look at a couple other things. This has 48 accuracy, 80 hip fire, and 90 control. The experimental has 40 accuracy, 30 hip fire, which is slightly lower, but the accuracy is the same, and 90 control, which is the same. So I think it's very interesting to think about. So let's take another look at this again inside of here. So let's get out the experimental and let's go over to this. So look at this, you got 360 rounds per minute, which is good. Go over here, 360 rounds per minute, 41 rounds of ammunition, 41 rounds of ammunition. Take a look at the damage. Damage is very similar. Accuracy is very similar. Hip fire on this is much lower than the other one, but still, I believe that it's contender. It has probably about the same hip fire as SMG 0818, but the control is very similar. So, and in fact, this one has more damage than the M1917 trench carbine. But I'm done with my rant. I'm just saying, I believe DICE is not going to update this game anymore. BF1 is a great game. I wish we could see it run, have more things, but I think it's had a good run. I'm excited to get my hands on Battlefield 5 when I get the chance. I pre-ordered it, so I should be getting the beta sometime within the next couple months. And yeah, I mean, I love this game, you know. So just wanted to show you what I've done in this game, what I have, what I'm still working towards, and what I would recommend for you guys if you want to come back and jump onto Battlefield 1 and try it out. You know, if you guys have DLC weapons that you haven't unlocked yet, that you're hesitant to try out, I'm hoping I cleared any of that up, and maybe I showed you something that you guys would enjoy in the future. So thank you very much for watching. I know this is a very lengthy video, 55 minutes. I kind of got caught up and ranting about it, but hey, you never know, we could get that sweet ad revenue. But thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great day or night, depending on when you're watching this. Thank you very much. I'll be streaming plenty of times. Thank you. Give me recommendations on what you would like to see next. I have a couple more videos I'll probably be setting up for you guys. A couple more streams setting up. And in fact, I have this really cool video I hope I could come out with soon. basically explaining what weapons I like to use if I want to stay historically accurate to the faction I'm playing or the map that I'm playing, and when that map takes place, stuff like that. Excuse me. And so I have a list of that, and I'm hoping I could probably get that to you guys soon. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you again for watching. If you stayed throughout this entire rant, I guess I would call it. Thank you very much. Um, I will be streaming uh, if you're watching this as soon as it comes out, or the next day, then I will be streaming on July 3rd. My mistake. July 2nd. Monday, July 2nd. Most likely I'll be streaming I'll be starting my stream sometime between 9 and 10. I'll probably last a couple hours maybe. I don't know for sure. I'll probably play several games. I'll probably play Battlefield 1, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield 4. Excuse me again. Call of Duty, Detroit Become Human. I'll probably have part 3 coming out. And yes, so thank you. Have a great day, great night whenever you're watching this. Hope I could catch you tomorrow on Monday, July 2nd at 9 or 10 p.m. That is Eastern Time. If you're watching this anywhere else. And thank you. Bye bye.